So we have a potential bad news bears situation on our hands right now. You can see that's our turbo. So I'll walk you guys through what happened. Unfortunately, I did not get it on camera, but we were running the car and it was idling and everything was good. Then I noticed that we had a leak on the oil drain, so I went and tightened that. So here's our oil drain. When I tightened it, it went from this to that and it kinked. And from the position that I was underneath the car, I couldn't see that and I didn't check. So it's my fault, it's on me, fucked up. So I thought, okay, that's not good, the turbo's done. Well, I opened up the turbo and everything looks good in there. Like all the seals look good, there's no shaft play whatsoever. Everything looks good. So I cleaned everything out and I'm letting it air dry right now. We're gonna let it dry for a couple hours and then we're gonna put it back together and then we're gonna put it back on the car because everything else looks good. I mean, oil filled up in our exhaust here and there was a little bit in the manifold, but I cleaned that out, so we're good there. None went in the intake, thankfully, so we're good there. That was scary. Throw it back on, everything should be good. And the car still runs, like it'll run how it is without the turbo. I started it up and forgot the oil feed is still on and it's not going anywhere, so it was just shooting oil out of there. So I turned it off. A good chunk of oil came out, probably like half a quart. So we'll check the oil level once we get the turbo on and see if we need to add more, and if we do then we'll have to go get more. But for now, we're gonna leave it as is and hope that we're still good. Alright guys, so I made a new oil return line so we can put that back on. The old one actually looked okay, like there weren't leaks or anything, but I had extra hose, so I thought, okay, well, let's just do extra hose because I don't want down the line the drain fuck up like when I'm driving, because that'll be really bad. We caught it pretty quick when it happened, so everything looks good. I'm still waiting for the stuff to dry. The turbo drain line is all good, so now we just wait for it to dry and then we'll try it again. So we have our turbo manifold here, and on this side it is completely dry, which is good. It's wet in here where the turbo goes and where the wastegate was, so we're gonna clean that out. But that's good that it's dry on the other side because that means none of the oil got back into the motor in the combustion chamber and on the valves. Down in there, that is all dry, every cylinder, so it's all good, thankfully. And while we're here and we have all this open room, I'm going to double check tightening the feed and the drain. Even though I already tightened both of them, I'm going to double check since the turbo manifold is off. It'll be way easier to do it now. What I'm gonna end up doing is when I put the turbo back together, I'm going to put the drain line on the turbo because it's easier to get it from underneath the car than it is trying to get it underneath the turbo. I just don't have room because of the strut tower and the motor. So we're going to tighten it while it's out and then throw it in and tighten it on the bottom when it's in. So I've got the core of the turbo pretty much back together. We got the compressor wheel back on, it's all tightened down, good to go. We got the little housing, I guess, back plate on. That's a bitch getting to these bolts. There's two on this side, two on the other side, and it's a bitch. Like, you can't fit a socket in there, and it's just a bitch. And now we can put on the compressor and the turbine housing. Hey, look at it, it looks like a turbo now. I'm so glad that everything on the inside looked good. All the seals and everything still looked good. Everything was all good. There were no signs of like wear and tear or anything, which there shouldn't be. It's a brand new fucking turbo. But we had to double check and we had to clean it out anyways. And I used the air compressor and we sprayed all the compressed air all throughout it on every component. So it's completely dry. So when we put the turbo in, because it is dry, we are going to crank the motor without the fuel pump on. So all it's doing is putting oil in and nothing's going to be spinning it. We'll crank it for a couple seconds so oil can go in because it shoots quite a lot, as I've learned from the mess I made from starting it without the turbo in. We'll have it primed so it'll have oil in it and it'll be all good, and then we'll start it up with fuel and she should be good. But I still have to put all the nuts back on for the exhaust manifold and then we can start putting the turbo back on. Alright guys, everything is put back together. Got the drain line on. See it down there? No kinks, so we should be good. We shouldn't have that issue anymore. We got our feedback on, our wideband, our exhaust. Our intercooler piping is all hooked up. Exhaust manifold was torqued down. And we tightened the turbo, got our wastegate back on. So we're ready to fire her up. But first we're going to do the cranking without any fuel, so we can get some circulating in the turbo. So I've been running it with the exhaust not hooked up, so we have direct access to the turbine wheel. And at first there was a little bit of smoke, and then there wasn't, and I think that is because whatever I missed when I was cleaning it out got burnt up. So far we've been running it, and then every time I'll let it run for a little bit, kill the car, wipe down this area, and then spray the air compressor, some compressed air in there, just to help get everything out of there, and then starting it up, and then keep doing that. And so far we haven't had any smoke yet, so that's very, very good. I think it was a one-time thing with what happened. And I've also been making sure that our drain is a nice straight, it's a curve, but it's, you know, it's a nice smooth path for it to go. And so far no leaks on the fittings, which is good, and everything is hooked up apart from the exhaust and the wideband, but that's not important right now. So I'm gonna do that a few more times, and if it's not smoking anymore, then I'm gonna throw the exhaust back on, and then we'll start it up and see what happens. There's probably still some in the exhaust, actually, now that I think about it. If as soon as I put the exhaust on it starts smoking again, then I'll know that it's in the exhaust. There's some in there that's got to get burnt out. So I have a feeling that one of the plugs is misfiring, or it's not firing at all. It'll idle good, and then all of a sudden it'll sound like a miss. Like it should be like do 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 do, but it's like do 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 do. Like it's missing one. So we're going to pull all the plugs, check them out. But we got the air idle control valve. That guy in the corner there, we got him on and he is working, so that's good. Our timing is set. We looked at it with the timing light, everything looked good there. So now the last thing is to make sure we don't have any misfires, and then we can go from there. Keep adjusting the fuel map. Right now we've got it pretty good. At idle we're at like 14, between 14.3 and like 15 for the AFR. And that's at like 800 RPM. The car idles kind of low for some reason. Not sure. This misfire might be the reason why. We're gonna take the plug out and see what's going on. So this is cylinder 6. First plug I pulled out. Look at how dirty and disgusting that is. That is not good. And it makes sense because we were running super rich. So this is a little bit later than the clip you just watched, but we have the exhaust back on. We're dialing in the fuel table on here because it's running rich, and then it runs lean when we rev it, so we got to figure that out. But the exhaust is back on. There's no more oil coming out of the turbine housing, which is good. So that means the manifold and the turbine housing are now free of oil, which is what we want. We don't want oil in either of those. But as you can see here, we have a nice little coolant leak. Unfortunately, it's coming from the back of the motor, and I believe it's from the back heater hose, because that's the only port back there that coolant goes through. So I'm going to have to address that before we start running this again. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. There's a lot of stuff that I still have to do, things still have to get dialed in, and address the coolant leak and all that fun stuff. But we'll be doing that in the future. For now, I'm Andy here. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like if you did, comment down below, and hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.